So, The Ferryman, what's the deal with this book? So, picture a world where no one dreams and no one dies. And on this world, there are three islands. The first island is called Prospera. And on Prospera, this is where all the rich people live. And so, they have fancy meals, they have servants, they go to operas, and they don't care too much about how these servants feel or how they live. Regular rich people stuff. And yeah, that's what happens in Prospera. The day-to-day life is just enjoyment, basically. And on this second island, it's called the Annex. That's where all the poor people live. And so on this island, there's suffering, and they have religion to ease the pain of suffering, because religion always helps in some way. There's the third island. This is where things get interesting. The third island is called it's called the nursery. And on the nursery, this is where people go to get reintegrated. Why do people need to get reintegrated, you ask? Well, because I said people don't die. What happens is usually they will delete your memories, and then you come back, they do some stuff to you, and then you come back as a teenager and you get reintroduced to the society to start life anew, if you will. So obviously you can tell the marriage in this world works different. So obviously, because people don't die and stuff, and people don't give birth to children, what happens is you would sign a marriage contract for 5 years or 10 years, and when the contract expires, I guess you can renew, or you can find someone else to sign a new contract with, or you can just stay on your own, be lonesome. You can also tell that a person can be reintegrated multiple times into the society. Each time you could be reintegrated with different parents. So what happens is when people sign marriage contracts, they can choose to adopt kids, and these kids would be people who are getting reintegrated back into the society. How do people know when they need to get reintegrated though? Well, they have timers on their arm. It sort of reminds me of, there's this movie with Justin Timberlake in it. In Time it was called, maybe, I'm not sure, or I can't remember. But reading the book, it sort of reminded me like the chip that they had on their hands. But yeah, the people that live in this world have chips on their arm. Just checking if my camera is still on. Not my camera, my mic. Anyways, they have chips on their arm that starts at 100%. And when the chip goes to about 10%, then the person knows they have to go get reintegrated to the society. So they have to go to the nursery and get reintegrated. And as you would expect, because people have to get their memories deleted, not everyone wants to go to the nursery willingly. So it is the job of the ferryman to take everyone to the nursery by force if they don't want to go willingly. But usually most people understand and they go willingly. But in some cases, you have to force them. And so enter a protagonist. He is the ferryman in this world. He is the one who has to take people to the nursery. I feel like I'm repeating myself here. But anyways, story kicks off where our ferryman has to take someone very interesting to the nursery. Turns out this person isn't willing to go. So the ferryman has to use some sort of coercion, if you will. Somehow this person escapes. He gets captured, and while they're trying to force him to get into the ferry, because the ferry actually takes you from Prospera to the nursery, while they're trying to take this person to the nursery, he starts blabbering some words, saying some gibberish, and in the midst of all this mumbo jumbo that he's spilling, he says, "It's all Oranios." So I, the reader, along with the protagonist of the novel, what's his name again? Oh, his name is Proctor Bennett. We have to find out what Oranios is. What did that man say? What is he talking about? And so that's how the book kicks off. It kicks off with this puzzle. It's not a puzzle, it's just some gibberish that someone says, and you have to sort of figure it out as you go along. So I read this, or I listened to the audiobook, or at least I tried to. That's how I started, and I found it to be really frustrating. I I do know that some people like the audiobook, but I didn't like it at all. I can't remember the name of the narrator. It wasn't bad, but I think it's one of those things sometimes when you listen to an audiobook where it's like the voice you're hearing is just not the voice that the narrator is reading it with. So it's a bit jarring, and after a while I just had to turn it off and, push it somewhere, and I couldn't read it again. So there was that. So I don't know if I would recommend the audiobook if you want to read this one. I mean, you could always give it a try, but I personally didn't like it. So I think about like 10 or 20%, I just had to switch it off and then like read the actual book, because obviously I read mostly digital copies these days anyways. Yeah. So how did I feel about the book? It started out really slow for me anyways. So slow that I almost gave up, to be honest. But about, say, halfway through, it really picked up. And I'm thankful I didn't give it up, because I think it paid off in the end. There were some really interesting ideas being explored in the book. So what I liked was, I think the ideas were really profound. One in particular was this idea that a world needs to come from a mind for the people in that world to be able to find meaning in that world. I mean, it's not one that I necessarily agree with. I don't know if I disagree as well, but it's something to think about, and sort of implies the idea of God, that I guess our world had to come from a mind, so there must have been a creator in some way. Obviously, the book is not theology or anything. It's just an idea that the author is trying to explore via sci-fi, which is why I like sci-fi, because a lot of times they love these sort of ideas being explored. There were twists, and there were lots of twists in the book as well. It's always fun when that happens, especially when you didn't see them coming. But what I didn't like I said, was the pacing of the book. It starts out really slow, and I almost gave up, which is not nice, because you don't want that to happen when you're reading a book. Books should be an enjoyable experience. I think they should be, especially when it's fiction, and you're reading something for fun. Also, there were lots of info dumps. So because the book starts off with this, I'll call it a puzzle that you have to sort of piece together, and halfway through, there are just lots of info dumps. So now things are making sense, but you just feel like someone is just explaining to you like what happened or why things were that way. And I got some relief from this, because I'm like, oh yeah, this is why this thing happened. This is why the man said that, or this is why he was seeing these things, or this is why, you get what I mean? But I sort of felt that it could have been better handled in an organic, or in a more organic way or manner. It's how they say, like, show don't tell kind of thing. I don't know if this applies here. But anyways, I think it was a really, really good book. It's hard to say if I would recommend it, even though I loved it, just because I know I nearly gave up reading it. But I would say, though, that if you have the patience for it, it would really pay off, because there's some really mind-bending stuff in there. So if you really like stuff that would bend your mind and you go, oh wow, I didn't see that coming, you should definitely pick this one up. And yeah, that's the end of the book review. The Ferryman by Justin Cronin. Cronin. I think I pronounced it with a G at the end, and there is no G. There should be a picture of the book somewhere this way or that way. I guess when I'm editing, I'll place it somewhere. Anyways, I'll go now. Catch you in the next one. Bye.